Hey everyone, welcome back to the Maximum Human Potential YouTube channel. Today's topic is, do you need a trained chest to be a successful strongman? Now, I'll kick it off with, I like using extremes as the example, and that because it really gives some perspective that we can bring back to the norm sometimes. So I've been lucky enough to coach some great athletes so far in my coaching career, and I've been lucky enough to help two guys break all-time world records in the axle. And funnily enough, they were all guys both in Western Australia, where I'm from. So I had Adam Haynes Monaghan, so I helped him out breaking the all-time under 80 axle press world records. That was 141.6 at the time. That's since been beaten by Dan Flash Ashcroft over in the UK. And then there was, of course, Naramu Ahipene, so he broke the under 90 kilo axle press world record at 166 kilograms. Now, I was actually thinking about this the other day. It's the 166 is a very cool number because that was actually the weight of the original Apollon's axles, if you want to do a bit of history reading on that, and which were lifted by Fred Strongman in the late 1800s, and then they weren't lifted again for about 50 years until a Olympic weightlifter, world champion actually, John Davis, lifted them using a switch grip clean technique. So there's actually a video, a black and white video on YouTube of him doing that, so I suggest you watch that and have a bit of a read up on the history. It's pretty cool. And I only realised the significance of that number recently. Anyway, so both these guys did absolutely no chest work in the lead up to their world records. And this, of course, is a controversial thing. So there's a lot of people who I've discussed this with in Strongman, some coaches I really respect, and a lot of them don't agree. They say you need to have chest work in the program. But I really think it depends on the athlete. So what do these guys both have in common? Well, they're both highly skilled Olympic weightlifters before coming into Strongman. So Adam had done a 150 clean and jerk, Nara clean and jerk 160. But in order to put that same, those kind of numbers up on a fixed axle requires a whole heap of reserve shoulder strength that you can get away with not having with an Olympic lifting bar, okay? Because there's no whip of the bar. The thickness of the bar means, it's really dead weight compared to a weightlifting bar, and you need a heap more power. So that was key there. So with both those guys, one of my favourite programs, deep water, 10 by 10 push press. Starting them decreasing, working up to sets of 15, even 20 reps on that same weight on push press. Heavy supports to desensitize the body to lifting extreme amounts of weight. And a whole bunch of tools to kind of activate the nervous system, and then just hitting the strict press with a heap of volume as well. So that they were basically the keys, bring that up, and then increasing the frequency slightly to really peak those neural qualities for the world records, and backing off on things like squats, deadlifts, just to allow the body to recover. Now, just because those guys didn't do chest work, and they don't really do too much today either, doesn't mean that you shouldn't. It really depends on your technique. So those guys are both split jerkers. They also split jerk the log, and a split jerker is not going to require as much chest strength as someone who push presses. Now, in saying that, the flat bench press might not have the carryover that some people believe it does. So if you look at one of my mentors, Tom, he wrote a great article explaining his reasoning on whether you should include the flat bench press in a program to increase your log press and overhead press. So what is seen is the flat bench press tends to target more the lateral, so the outer head of your tricep, whereas overhead pressing movements target more the long head of your tricep, where it inserts down to the elbow there. And you really want the long head to be really strong and powerful overhead, because if you sort of overdevelopment of the lateral head in the context of a bench press uses a supplementary lift for strongman, he believes can lead to elbow flaring in a log press because you're trying to shift to using the lateral head, which is a very disadvantageous technique. And then there was some interesting examples there, like how Graham Hicks felt that bench pressing didn't really help his log, and then a guy like Zadrunas Savickas, he does more close grip bench pressing, very little wide grip flat bench pressing. There is a few videos of him doing 250 with a wider grip, but generally throughout the year he's using a close grip variation as an assistance movement to really target the triceps. So there's some interesting takeaways. But then you see a few other examples, like if you talk to Sebastian Oreb, who obviously coached Thor Bjornsson, he always talks about how much Thor's log press went up when he incorporated bench press into his regimen. And likewise, Sebastian actually broke the Australian log press record in the 105 kilo class, hitting 160 with basically a strict press technique. So there's definitely something to be said just for the general all-round strength that having a massive bench press can bring to your overhead pressing. But let's also look at the time factor. So using Nara as an example, so he won the world's strongest man under 90 kilos with about 2 years and 2 months of strongman training. Now, if we'd had one press day, one overhead press day rather, and one bench press day for those 2 years, I really highly doubt that he would have won the world championships in such a short period of time, because he just didn't have that specificity. And so that's something to consider, is if you want your overhead to increase as fast as possible, you want to be hitting it twice a week. If you want your overall strength to increase, your overall body strength in multiple planes to increase as fast as possible, then yes, do the flat bench and the other day. But again, it really depends on the client. So quite often it'll be, is the bench press just an effective exercise for that particular person? So some people are just very well suited to the bench press. So quite often they'll have just a naturally large chest, sort of good posture, their shoulders aren't internally rotated, and they can tolerate a lot of volume on the bench press, and it just seems to go up and up and up. And sometimes with those clients, we'll keep that in because it's something they enjoy. It's something that is somewhat beneficial, and it's going to keep them motivated for the long term. And we'll have a look at that. But if an important comp's coming up, the bench press is going to take a back seat, and we could be overhead pressing twice a week if we need to. Another consideration is, what weight class is the athlete in? So generally you'll see that a lot of weight classes will do more split jerking. They'll have a bit, in general, better shoulder mobility, be a little bit speedier with their pressing, and they'll generally use less bench pressing in their training. Whereas when you're looking at all the guys at World's Strongest Man, I'd say the average bench press of the top 10 is normally around the sort of 250-ish mark. Okay, so anywhere, guys in the top 10, it could be hitting anywhere from 230 at the absolute lowest, I'd say, and then occasionally you get a guy doing as much as 300, but on average, I'd say roughly around that 250 range if you're looking at the top 10, and you could probably extend that. There's plenty of guys in the top 20, top 30, they're hitting those kind of weights, well, probably more top 20, I'd say, top 15 to top 20 are all big bench presses, or if they train it for a few months, they would be a big bench presser. So that's a very important consideration. So I'm a heavyweight as well. Now bench press does tend to beat up my shoulders, so I go for more incline pressing. Haven't got the best shoulder mobility, so I have to really lean back into my press. So I do employ a lot of inclines. I really hit the strict press hard, and I find my press is steadily increasing. Now the other thing about the bench press, so again, it's not right or wrong, there's pros and cons, but almost without fail, everyone with a massive bench press in strongman has horrendous shoulder flexibility. You'll see these guys with big bench presses in competition cleaning a barbell. It really comes out when they clean a barbell. A log is not quite as obvious. They can get a better position, but you'll see when it's a barbell event, they'll clean it, and it'll be, in extreme cases, right near their nose, but more often in their chin. And then they'll dip, and the bar will drop slightly, absorbing the leg drive, and then they'll press instead of press kind of slowly. Whereas if you haven't got those restrictions, you can get in a nice front rack position and just drive the legs and just use the triceps and shoulders to lock it out. So that is a far more efficient way to press. Anyway, to summarize, these are just some thoughts, get you thinking about how necessary chest work is in strongman. And again, the answer is it depends. So it's one of those things you've got to take, and look at exactly what your goals are, how far you are from competition, and that will determine how much chest work you need. So let's start thinking about training a bit more logically, bouncing around some ideas. So comment below what you thought of the video and whether you think chest work's important in strongman.